5 here and 2 on their way. So, Council, you have the agenda in front of you. I am going to welcome everyone to our workshop meeting. Today is Wednesday, November 12th, 2025. We are in the council chambers of Washington City Hall for a workshop meeting. This is a meeting where we do not take formal action, but we take information and we give direction. We have a hard stop at 5:30 on this meeting. All of our meetings, just for those in attendance, are streamed live on our website, washingtoncity.org/meetings. They're also archived there. So if you ever want to go back and look at an agenda or look at an item that you may have missed, you can always easily find that and click on it, and it will show you the actual video of that section of the meeting. Council, at this time, I'll turn to you for a motion to approve the agenda as outlined.
So moved, Mayor.
I have a motion by Councilman Henderson.
Second.
Second by Councilman Ivy. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The agenda is approved unanimously. We have 2 items on our agenda tonight. The first is an update on the Washington Dome project. The second is a C&D landfill update. Neither of those are advertised as for open public comment, but we hope that being able to listen, as we've been listening to you, you'll be able to get a lot of your answers, a lot of the answers that you're seeking. So to start off here, I am looking for Paul Walker, Assistant Leisure Services Director. If you'd come forward and give us an update on Washington Dome. We're excited to look at the progress the committee's been made and answer the questions that the council has.
Okay, thank you. Eldon, if you could let me get on here. I've got a quick presentation. As some of you know, we've been working on this project for a while now. We were awarded a grant from the Utah Division of Outdoor Recreation. They give us a grant of $150,000 to study Washington Dome and kind of figure out the best uses for that land and what to do with that. We've been working with Avenue Consultants on that. This is kind of the schedule. We've been meeting with the committee with a lot of involved parties such as the BLM and city staff, and we've had some really productive meetings. We've been doing some outreach. We've met with a lot of groups, user groups and community groups that are interested in this. So this is just a quick update. The project will wrap up at the end of the year, and Avenue Consultant, they'll come give an in-depth report on the final report of the Washington Dome project. Just a history, we'll run through this really quickly. This is the existing trails on Washington Dome. This was just pulled off the All Trails app. This is what people are using right now, hiking on the Washington Dome. Some of those trails are nice trails. Some of them aren't as nice. They're steeper or not optimal trails. So the consultants tried to connect some of those, make some better trails. Talked with some user groups and preliminary got some trail ideas. As part of the meetings we've had and other meetings, we got feedback from stakeholders, including the BLM, as I mentioned, and city staff. And then we went over the maps and decided what's good on the maps, what do we want to keep, what would be nice to have. It was really good to get feedback from the BLM.
And Paul, can you just clarify, yes, the BLM was part of that committee?
Yes,
They've been at those meetings.
Yeah, the BLM is part of the steering committee. They're at regular meetings for this. And they had really good input. They said just pick the best trails you think you want and then apply and we'll sort it out. They've helped us with some kind of environmental things, what we need to apply for and what we need to look out for in the Washington Dome area. Some of the ideas we've got is to have a portion of it paved. We'd like to have a loop paved around all of Washington Dome, and that creates access to all of Washington Dome. A lot of the existing trails are user-created. They're not the best. At some point, somebody rode a motorcycle straight up the Washington Dome, and that became the trail. So a lot of what we're working towards is better uses of trails. So some of these, the red line on the right, you would follow the same elevation all the way around instead of going straight up or straight down, or we may have to add some switchbacks. So we kind of, laying out the trails wasn't just what's existing, but what would be the best trails on the Washington Dome. So I mentioned we looked at two kinds of trails. One would be a paved trail, similar to all the trails we've got existing in our trail system, a 10-foot multi-use paved trail system. The other trails would be natural surface unpaved trails, but they would also be groomed and designed and laid out. And they would be much smaller, 2 to 4 foot wide single track trails. Much cheaper option, and for most of the dome, this would be the appropriate trail. This is the final trail plan. The concept that we're showing to the public now, and a similar concept is in your packet. The green would be the paved trail, kind of that loop network around the perimeter, and the unpaved trails. We think would be the best options.
Hey, Paul. So along the Southern Parkway, they're planning to build that paved trail. Would that be the same trail? Because I'd hate to do a paved trail and a paved trail right on the same side.
No, the SR7 trail is on the east side of SR7.
It is on the east side?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's part of the Utah Trail Network, and that will be from Long Valley down to St. George.
So Paul, if I can
Yes.
jump in, this is all BLM, right?
The majority of it is BLM. Some of this is private land, and this is just a concept.
Okay. Some of the trail would be on private. I mean, I can see a couple of
Yes.
points where it comes out of the Washington Dome map where you'd have to get some accesses there, but
Yeah.
a lot of that's private inside of that boundary as well.
Yeah,
too.
the southernmost section has a lot of private parcels on that,
Okay.
but the majority of it, I think we have 700 to 800 acres of BLM land in the study.
Assuming you didn't get the accesses across those private parcels, have they looked at a different route or different trail map?
Yeah, I'll get to it a little bit further on in the slides, but it's more of a concept plan that we can build towards. So if we don't have access for those, we would build the other trails.
Okay.
So potentially, some of those, we may never be able to build them if we can't get the access. But this, go ahead.
In future, or at least at some point, you show those on this too, or show another map that shows where those are, so we can see where that overlap is.
I can get that to you. This map doesn't show the differentiation between the
I
public and
understand
private.
that, but I don't think it'd be hard to have them
Yeah, we could
include that in
definitely
a
do that.
separate exhibit. Okay,
Yeah, we can
Thank
do
you.
that for the final report. We can have that in it for sure.
okay, thank you.
As part of the outreach, we did a lot of surveys. There was a website created by Avenue Consultants, and we did a lot of outreach at Cotton Days, and we gave things out and had a lot of feedback on the website. So a lot of this came from surveys that we received and feedback we received on the website. So we asked for amenities and what amenities people wanted to see. The biggest one was access and parking, so people could get to it. So trailheads and some of the other popular things were benches, scenic overlooks, wayfinding. Especially with the network of trails, it would be great for people to be able to find their way around and plan loops and things in the trails. So this is a map of all the potential amenities where the wayfinding signs would be, good places for benches and access and potentially restrooms. So all these are laid together for the final map.
And Paul?
Yes.
As we transition to the kind of the final proposed map, I think it's also safe to say part of the motive behind the Washington Dome is to preserve some of that natural open space,
Yeah,
right? And
correct.
protect it. I mean, I remember, motorcycles and, things kind of cutting in those initial trails, but part of that committee, and I've been a part of that, we've looked at where is the best trail, even if we have to rehab some of that scarring and put where does the best trail make most sense for, the hikers, runners, walkers, those kind of things. Is that accurate? So we would,
Yeah.
almost as the Washington Dome, almost a reserve or a preserve.
Yeah. Yeah, some of the goals were to maintain access. As development comes around it, we want to maintain the access for the users, but we also want to maintain that open space and that beauty. And we did talk about scar mitigation and adding trails that wouldn't leave scars and would be better trails.
And then also, just as you're preparing for that final presentation to the councils, we're looking at, there are a lot of challenges in some of these areas with, obviously BLM property, but all of the properties, there are such slope issues, I mean, with those steep grades that there's not a lot of other options there. So some owners might be motivated to, work with the city on an overall concept.
Yes, correct. So this is the plan of the trails with the amenities on it. And as mentioned, this is a list of trails and how long they are. So the idea is they could be built in stages. This is almost 12 miles of trail in total. About 5 miles of that are paved, and then the additional is natural surface. So this is a large project, and we don't intend to do it all at once. This is a plan that we can work towards. So we'll build projects as we can and connect sections as we can. On this map, there's a section for motorized in the south that's kind of a concept to leave a little bit of area where people could still use motorized vehicles. Some of the feedback we've got is the area's not large enough. People would rather go to larger areas for motorized, and there's other options in the area too.
Paul, so one of the questions I have is, I see 3 restroom locations, and you call that a vault restroom, so it's kind of like over at Chuck Walla Wall, it's just a whole, like it's a big porta potty, right?
Yeah.
Because we don't have sewer services there. But I guess my question is, it seems like a lot of restrooms, even like, I don't know, it just seems like a lot for that small of an area, because every restroom costs, even with that type of restroom, is still lots of money to put those things in. So I'm just wondering if we reduced down to 2, one on the west side and one on the east side or something like that, is kind of one of my initial thoughts. Is it just seems like there's a lot for that small of an area.
Yeah.
So.
That's a great point, and that's definitely an option that we can do.
And maybe on the maps, maybe it's just these are the 3 locations, but we only plan on constructing 1, maybe 2, or something like that. That's just more clear in the final.
Yeah, I think we can prioritize the restrooms based on the feedback we get from you and from the public, that maybe we just pick the 2 that work the best. I think that's a good option.
Councilman Henderson, Councilman Ivey, additional comments? Councilwoman Casperson?
Do you want to talk about, just for information for the public, what's going to be on Saturday?
Yes, so we're concluding our public outreach this Saturday at Shooting Star Park from 2 to 4. We're going to have some city staff and Avenue consultants will be there, and we're going to have these maps for the public to look at and to go over with us, and we'll be happy to answer any questions and receive feedback from people for this. We'll have some trail mix and some stuff there, so we hope.
Trail mix.
Yeah.
Well, and thank you to Councilwoman Casperson. I know she serves on the Trails and Outdoor Recreation Committee, and so appreciate your work and insight on this.
So Paul, in the motorized area, the crosshatch section, so that's open for public comment to kind of determine that. You've kind of left some room for saying you're not exactly sure what that looks like, whether it's big enough, small enough, what it would involve. And I think that's an important part of our development, our growth, that we maintain some of these areas. And I would just like to encourage people to reach out and submit comments on this. The dome has always been just one of those landmarks in Washington City. And the effort here is, of course, is try to preserve that amenity for trails and for outdoor recreational use. And hopefully there'll be enough comments come in that it'll help guide our decisions to be able to know what the residents want in that area and throughout the city.
Good feedback. Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Henderson?
Thanks, Paul. That looks great. So that'll be exciting to spruce that up there and make it usable for a lot of people. So thank you.
Councilman Henderson, any additional comment? Any additional comment? Or Belliston, I'm looking at you and. Okay. Councilman Coates? Paul, I'll give you the final word on this. Anything you'd like to leave us with, or?
Just want to say thanks for the support. We're really excited for this project. It's a really great place. The more feedback we get, the more we realize how important this is to the people in the area.
And then also, would it be conducive to mountain biking as well?
Yes.
Mountain biking, hiking, trail running,
Yeah.
walking? Okay.
Can I ask really quick? I know we're at the beginning stages of this, but when you start applying with this with a BLM, what is the time turnaround for them? I know sometimes it can take some
Yeah.
time for them with
So
working
we
with them.
need to do an environmental study on this area, and that's what this helps with, is if we know where the trails are, we know where to do the environmental study. Instead of the whole 800 acres, we can just do the study in the corridors where we want the trails to go. So I think that's a process that takes a couple of years, at minimum. So we're applying for grants and working on that. So this is really helpful for us to continue in the process, and once we get this decided, we can put it in our capital facilities plan in the future, so we can allocate funds to it in that way too.
Great. Thank you, Paul. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
The next item is going to be the C&D landfill update. And before I invite our guests from the state agency to come forward, let me just welcome all of our friends and neighbors from the I'll call it the Country Way area, because I know there are 3 distinct subdivisions. But for some of you, this might be your first time at a city council meeting, and for some of you, you may have come frequently. But we just want you to know that you're welcome, and we're glad you're here. This is your city hall, and while it's not open for public comment and a public hearing, what I can tell you is that myself and my council and staff, we have heard you, and we continue to hear you and your comments. And we have, read the emails. We held the open public comment weeks ago, and we have been working diligently behind the scenes to continue to move forward towards a solution. And because we have now made progress, and also because we promised you as an elected body that we would find answers and report back to you, it's our pleasure to welcome Assistant Director Jaylene Knutson of the Division of Waste Management and Radiation Control from the Utah Department of Environmental Quality to present to all of us an update. And she has brought her associate Brad, and she'll have to do the full introduction of her partner there. But Jaylene and Brad, if you could come forward and address the council, and we will be your mouthpiece tonight, and we'll all be the ears listening to what our friends at the state agency have to say. Jaylene.
Thank you, member and city council members. We appreciate the invitation and look forward to updating you on where we're at on this situation. So it's Brian, actually, but let me let Brian introduce himself.
Look, if I get the
It
right
was
starting
close enough.
letter,
It
we're
was-
going to call that a win.
Close enough.
Brian.
Absolutely, that was great.
Give us
So-
your full name and title, partly because I want to get it right next time, but also because my recorder will want that for the record.
Absolutely. My name is Brian Spear. I'm the manager of the solid waste section at the Division of Waste Management and Radiation Control.
Wonderful. Welcome, Brian.
Okay, and I have to get into my computer really quick. So first, I thought we'd start out with a timeline of the events that have happened for a community in Washington City, and then we'll get into where we're at today. And I think I have hopefully a little bit of good news for the community and talking about our next steps. So the Purgatory landfill fire that happened in Washington City happened
So
on.
hold that mic right
Sorry,
in front of you.
I know better than that.
There you go.
You got it. It happened on June 22nd, 2025. We were made aware of that fire on July, sorry, I want to get my dates right, July 26th of 2025. We confirmed that there was a fire and it was put out by the city fire department. After that visit, we had our DEQ engineer go out to the landfill, and he confirmed that the fire had been extinguished. Subsequent to that, we received some what we call an environmental incident report from the community, that they were experiencing odors, significant odors in the evening. The first odor report came in, I believe, at the end of July. And then this multiple reports started coming in about August 3rd, and the increased intensity of that odor. So after that, what we did is start to investigate further. We had members of our division. Well, first we talked to the landfill, and there was nothing visual that showed that there was an ongoing fire. We recruited lots of response agencies, including DEQ, and I'll try not to use acronyms, Environmental Quality, Health and Human Services, the State Fire Marshal's Office, the Environmental Protection Agency. And then at that point, we had discussions on how to help the community with their health concerns and this odor. On August 7th, the fire marshal did a drone flyover and some VOC air monitoring, and did not see any heat sources in that drone flyover. We shared a report with the community about August 8th about the information we gathered to date. On August 8th, we had some of our environmental quality staff do an overnight visit because the odors were significantly higher at night. So we had 3 of our environmental quality staff go do an overnight visit, and they confirmed that the odor started about 9 p.m. and started to dissipate about 7 p.m.
Or 7 a.m.
7 a.m., thank you. With that information, I had multiple discussions with state agencies, and we decided to reach out to the governor to see if we could activate the 85th Civil Support Team. They're a response agency for hazardous situations like this, particularly health concerns. So I attended the overnight monitoring with them on August 10th. They did a lot of different things that night. I can't speak to all of it because they're the experts. A lot of different equipment was used. They went around the entire area. We went in the landfill. And the report for that did not show any significant readings of concern. So after that, we started working with the landfill to potentially, there may have been an underground landfill fire, but we weren't sure, right? There wasn't any evidence. So we had them do things such as watering the landfill. So doing watering all day long to see if there was any leftover smoldering that would maybe help with that. And the community complaints continued. I should note, we did create an online community portal so they can tell us when they're experiencing the odors, the time, what type of health effects, things like that. And that is ongoing today. Let's see. Where am I at? So we did a couple of compliance advisories. It's an informal process where we send requests to the landfill to do a few things. One of them was to do some exploratory investigation to either confirm that there was an underground fire happening or that there was not. And so we've been working on those and with national experts, things like that, to figure out what might be going on as those odors continued. We also had our Division of Air Quality out to do a fugitive dust inspection. And just this last week, we had our Division of Water Quality out to do some stormwater inspections. The landfill began night patrols about September 18th to see if they could see any steam coming off the landfill during the overnight hours. They were unsuccessful in detecting anything. Ongoing conversations have happened behind the scenes throughout this entire time. And then on, let's see what date. On October 28th, so just a couple weeks ago, the landfill started digging in an area of the open face, and smoke was detected. That was the piece we needed to confirm that there was an underground smoldering fire. So once that happened, that's the evidence we needed to move forward to order them to take the next steps. And that's where we're at today. And so, and I know the community experienced strong odors. It's kind of a double-edged sword. Once they did that, we got what we needed, but because we were unaware they were going to do that, we couldn't communicate to them that they might experience that. So with that said, on Monday, just this past Monday, on November 10th, we issued a notice of violation and compliance order to the landfill. And these are the next steps that they will take. So I want to reiterate, we have confirmed there is a subterranean fire at the landfill. And the next steps are them to take action to manage that.
Can you repeat what was issued on Monday?
Sure.
Violation, a notice of violation?
Notice of violation and compliance order.
Okay.
And I'll talk through what they're required to do, because I think that's probably something everybody wants to hear about, so.
Thank you.
So it lists the violations, and it's pretty long, so I'm not gonna go through the whole thing. I'll summarize it for everyone. And Brian's passed out, this is a summary. I will share this with you electronically so you can put it on your website for the community after we're done tonight. Within 30 days, the landfill must submit a written statement to the director detailing violation cause, specific corrective actions with results and dates, proposed future corrective actions with completion dates and milestones, and a prevention plan. Within 30 days of the NOV and compliance order signature, they must submit a fire response plan to the director. The fire response plan must detail steps, intervals for periodic reports, and deadlines and milestones for investigating extent, depth, size, and characteristic of the fire, monitoring the fire, controlling, suppressing, and extinguishing the fire, preventing reignition, ensuring human health and environmental safety during all fire-related activities. And then once we receive that, we'll review it and approve it. And within 7 days of the director approving the fire response plan, they must begin its implementation. And finally, they're required to implement and comply with all reporting, deadlines, and milestones in the director-approved fire response plan. So that's the step we're at now, that 30 days from the date it was issued. I know 30 days sounds kind of like a long time, but in order for them to put a really good fire plan together, it's going to take some time. They're going to have consultants, experts help them figure that out so that we can manage the fire and get it out completely. So that's where we're at today. And then one final thing that I wanted to talk through today, because I've heard lots of concerns about this, is what type of material is acceptable at a construction and demolition landfill. So I've written this down. Again, I'll share it with you to share with the community, but I'll go through that list. Construction and demolition waste consists of solid waste from building materials, packaging, and rubble resulting from construction, remodeling, repair, abatement, rehabilitation, renovation, and demolition operations on pavements, houses, commercial buildings, and other structures, including waste from a very small quantity generator of hazardous waste, and it's as defined in a rule. That may be generated by these operations, and this waste may include concrete rebar contained in concrete, bricks and other masonry materials, excavated materials such as dirt and rock from construction sites, waste asphalt, lumber, pallets, tree stumps, and other wood products, drywall, metal pipes, hardware, and other structural metal, roofing shingles, PVC pipe, and tiles, and other building materials. And then additionally, they can accept yard waste, which is vegetative matter resulting from landscaping, land maintenance, land clearing, those types of things. And then inert waste, which is non-combustible, non-hazardous solid waste that retain their physical and chemical structure under expected conditions of disposal, including waste that exhibit resistance to biological or chemical change. And I think that's important to understand. Some of these materials, it's not meant to be a fire at the landfill, right? But that's likely where those odors are coming from, is some of these materials. And so now that we have confirmed that there's the subterranean fire, we'll work with the landfill to get that put out as quickly as we can. And with that, and I do want to note, this isn't a comprehensive summary of our efforts, but any questions I'm happy to add.
And we appreciate that update very much, Jaylyn, and also want to just make note that I've been copied on a lot of your emails, and I appreciate the prompt and professional response that you've given to me and to the community. Council, at this time, I'll turn to you for questions. Councilman Belliston, not Henderson, go ahead.
As you were talking, I wrote down about a handful of questions, so if you'll indulge me for a minute. The notice of violation, is that because of negligence or just the fact that there's a smoldering fire and that, creates a scenario where you have to issue?
Great question. So the fire itself is not a violation because everything that we know about the situation, it was not intentional. So that is not a violation, but there's things surrounding that, how they responded, other things at the landfill that we've looked into because of community concerns, and just in general, us looking at the landfill that are violations at this point.
I know that there was the original fire, but then at the same point in time, they had a bunch of material coming in from the Pine Valley fire.
I think it was
That
Pine
fire,
Valley.
because we're bringing a lot of that material in. There's no real way except to open and expose it to find out where this smoldering fire is actually coming from, correct?
Correct. And let me give you a little more detail of what that might look like. So what happened when we found out that we had the evidence that there is a fire is they just started digging into the working face, which gave air to the fire, right? And so they'll give us their plan. So I'm not saying this is their plan, but something that they could do is make a plan and drill some boreholes. So find out where that heat's at, because it could have gone a couple different ways. And then they're going to dig in that area and put the fire out in that area. So that's what takes quite a bit of time to put these subterranean fires out.
So that kind of brings me to my third question,
Okay.
right? Because we received some stuff that there was, I don't know, an email or a letter or something, or a recommendation that says not to dig up the landfill because of that you can, give air to it and kind of cause it to expand, right? I understand they went, they were getting a lot of heat, so they started digging holes to try and figure out what the heck's going on. And that, has that exacerbated the problem, or?
I don't think it's made the problem worse. I think what it did was give us the information we needed to create a plan to manage that.
So in a way, they were doing things they shouldn't have done, but that actually helped fix the solution.
Yeah,
Is that
I think
correct?
they were trying to be helpful, I think, in doing that and trying to figure out what's going on so they could put the fire out. That's not, I can't comment if that was the best thing to do, because it happened and they've covered it back up. I will say that the topography in the area, so they're up against a bluff right there, right? And that bluff has a lot of cracks in it. So that is naturally going to bring airflow into the lower part of that landfill. And so even if they hadn't done that, it would have continued. Them digging in gave us the answer we needed to move forward. So,
Okay, and then I just got two other, these should be pretty quick ones.
okay.
When there are smoldering type of a fire in a C&D landfill, because I know there's other places that have them.
Sure.
How long do those typically exist? We're going to leave it, let it kind of burn itself out.
Well, we don't recommend anybody ever just leave it, so I'm not sure. C&D landfill fires aren't as common as municipal landfill fires, which happen multiple times a day because of lithium-ion batteries. So I couldn't give you a specific timeline. It's based on the area they're in, what's going on, depth, things like that. I can tell you our experience with another C&D landfill fire in Utah several years ago. It took them about a year to put out.
Last question, if I go put a wood fire in my fire pit out back, right? You can smell that wood fire, from that,
Sure.
that I did, for a period of time, right? Whether it's a week or two or whatever the case may be. How long after a fire gets put out do they typically persist? Any
I
way to
couldn't
tell?
tell you on that. I have no idea. I will say that one of the things that we've talked with the landfill about is as they create a plan, we want to make sure that we're able to communicate with the community right there about what they're doing. So if it's going to be something that creates an open area, right? That's going to create odors. We want to make sure that they're aware of it as soon as possible. But also we require them to do things such as odor mitigation as they're doing that. So as they're opening up, they have a solution of how to mitigate those odors.
'Cause
That
I
will
don't
be
think there's
part of,
any way to address the problem without creating more odors. But then,
unfortunately.
you know, once we tell the community, hey, look, okay, we're pretty confident that it's done, we know that there's going to be a period of time before the odors dissipate, right? So
Correct.
kind of curious if there's going to be a way to forecast that?
So can I jump in, Jalen? Because I know
Please.
we've communicated
Yeah,
some
please.
really good line of
Please.
questioning, Councilman. I appreciate that. One of the things that we communicated with a few weeks ago, and the community has likely seen this, but on our homepage, washingtoncity.org, there's an update, so you can click on that link, and any official updates from the agency will be on there. So periodically checking that homepage and looking at that, you'll be able to get kind of the latest information. And then also, if there are situations that might cause additional odor based on the mitigation, you'll have forewarning based on that website.
Yes.
On the topic of odors, what would be some of the procedures that they would do to mitigate the odors, their plan? Like, what are some things that you've seen that
That's
their landfills have
That's a
used?
great question. I can't point to anything specifically. I know that there's some chemicals that can be used, which I know that word sounds scary, but there are things that are made to mitigate those types of odors. I'm not aware of all of the things. This is kind of a new thing for us. We're not fire experts, but we do have a lot of people in my network that I've learned, you know, we've become close over the last few months, so I will reach out to them and make sure that the plan is sufficient and protective of the community.
Okay, and then when you're doing the test for the air quality, I know you didn't go into specifics with that, but can you talk about some of the testing that you're doing to ensure the safety of the residents?
Sure, so we are not actively testing right now, but part of the plan will be that they need to let us know how they're going to protect human health and the environment in that area. And we've made some suggestions that would be monitoring the air there.
But you have in the past, when you've brought, the 85th Civil Support Team and all the different agencies, you've done
Also
numerous of testing to make sure,
Yeah.
to ensure the safety
Yeah,
of our residents.
so they did a lot of different type of testing that would be an immediate an immediate threat to human health. So I don't have them in front of me, and they're pretty technical, but there's a whole list of what that would be. We can share that. I think I've shared it with some people in the community that have asked, but I'm happy to share that with you,
Yeah,
what they looked
I would
for.
like that.
Sure, of course.
And then can I just do one more question? So when you talked about that storm water management, I know there has been some concerns brought up from our community about, the runoff from the water. And so what does that look like for a landfill for the, that management plan for the stormwater?
Sure. So this landfill does not have an industrial stormwater permit, so that's what our stormwater team was going out to check. It's not required of C&D landfills, and so that's why they don't have one, so that's not unusual. But then we had them go out and check just to make sure that it's managed correctly and we didn't have any concerns. We also had our Division of Water Quality who oversees waters of the state, so groundwater, things like that. They looked at the topography in the area, any groundwater, and they do not have any concerns of it contaminating any waters in the area.
You done, Ken?
Councilman Ivey?
Thank you. If I could liken this situation to a board game, it would be whack-a-mole. Because when the fire happened the 22nd of June, and we started hearing complaints coming in, you'd go out and you would look around and smell, and you'd go, I don't notice anything. But then, after a while, you started realizing that obviously if there's smoke, there's fire, and so we go out and we do motorcycle rides, and I get in a spot where I can smell it. And so I understand how challenging it's been, and I really appreciate you being here tonight. The residents are pleading and asking for help, and I'm sure now that we can get to that point and give them the relief that they deserve. But just some of my thoughts. I think that what you're going to find to help suppress that air is some Class A foam or inert gas, some sealing off the face so it can't get the air. But you're right, very much right. The geology out there is challenging. It's an anticline. The rocks are broken and fractures are going to be able to suck and dry air, and there is enough methane there to provide a source that's going to burn. What my concern is, and what I would like to talk about mainly, is the timeline.
Sure.
That's something that the residents, you know, I'm not going to go into all the details, but the complaints that I've heard in first person and that I've heard testimonials on, it's literally changed their lives, the quality of life, the way they live. It's cost money. People have put up homes to sell them. I talked to an old friend of mine, baseball player, that bought $3,000 worth of house air purifiers just to be able to be in his house. So I don't need to go into all those details, but I just want you to know that I appreciate you being here. This is one of the biggest crises that has happened to our city in our history. And when we came into it, I have to admit, I didn't even realize that the C&D was in our city. And that's maybe my fault, but it's been a process to learn and grow together. But I just want to ask you, plead with you, to do everything you can every day to give the relief that we need. I think that there's a way to do it, but my experience is that these type of fires, they're gonna have to be excavated, they're gonna have to be separated, it's gonna have to be actually drawn out, and you can drill and case to find and try to pump water down to the source. But I think, like you said, with the open face, it's always gonna be able to draw air and burn a different direction. But my pleading tonight is the timeline. And try to do everything we can to suppress the fumes as they escape now. The fugitive dust has been a problem from time to time. I know there's a concern with the water as well, but we wish no ill on this business. We just need the fire put out, and then as a city, we need to implement some ordinance and some conditional use permits possibly to try to help with your effort to manage going forward so this doesn't happen again. No fault of their own, but maybe just some education and working together to try to make sure that our residents out there don't have to go through this again a second time.
I appreciate that, Councilman. So when they provide the management plan for us, I know 30 days feels like a lot, like I mentioned earlier, to give us a good plan, right, that has plan Bs if something goes wrong and things like that. They need that amount of time to provide a good plan. And I don't want to have them go in unprepared and then us end up back here again where we're not sure what to do because it's made it worse. And so, but once we do have that plan, we'll make sure it's aggressive while doing it safely to get that put out as quickly as possible. And I know I gave you the year timeline. That doesn't mean that's how long this will take. It's just that's our experience, our only experience with a C&D landfill in Utah.
So when you get that experience, sorry, just one more follow-up, Mayor. When you get the report back, do you have an ability to look at that and view its viability and be able to get back right away and say, this is not exactly what we're thinking this, or just have some interaction there so we don't have that timeline start over several times?
Absolutely. And we were at the landfill before we came here today. We talked through what those requirements will be, and I've asked them to talk to us throughout the next 30 days as they're creating that plan, so that hopefully when the plan comes in, we've already said, yep, that's going to be good, versus coming at the end and having to ask lots more questions. So.
Thank you.
And Councilman Coates, I might make for the record, he's the chair of the executive board of the solid waste, which is the county landfill, so he knows a thing or two.
Sure.
Yeah, so, and a lot of people don't realize that it's actually totally separate. That landfill is a private landfill, the other one's county ran, and we sit on, like the Mayor said, I'm the chairman of that board, but there's 21 members from all the counties and cities around the valley. But the question I had is, you mentioned a year, you mentioned these time frames. What if their plan comes back and it's, hey, I need 5 years to work on this? Is that something that, like, where's the exception from you guys of, we're done, like, this is the amount of time you have? And we always know that plans have to change sometimes.
Sure.
But I mean, I understand you said it took a year to figure out that one. It wouldn't surprise me if it took a year to figure this one out, but I just don't want it to prolong more than it needs to. Like we've all talked about here, like that smell, we gotta get it taken care of, and the steps to do it. So what on your end teeth do you have to push down that this is the main focus to get this figured out before? I mean, they're still gonna wanna run a business, and we want them to run a business, but we need some effort into getting this done, not just peck away at it as we find time.
Right. Yeah, great question. And I will say I sympathize. I've smelled the odor. It's terrible. So I've experienced it firsthand.
And it's distinct.
And it's very distinct, yeah. So I've experienced firsthand, and it was important for me to do that because that makes me have a personal connection to it, right? And knowing what they're experiencing. So the plan that is submitted, we have approval over. And so if it's obnoxious, for lack of a better word, we'll say no. But that's why we engaged with them today, and we want to work with them as they're creating that, so they know what those expectations will be. So in 30 days, we don't have another 30 days because they didn't meet the mark. It will have to be an aggressive timeline. Other than that, I don't know until I see the plan, but we'll work with
So
them.
once the plan's finished and approved by you, is that something that, or is that just internal and you
Yeah,
guys
so
work
it would be a
on
public document. Same as the notice of violation, it is a public document, so I can share that with the city. But once that plan is approved, you're welcome to see what that is, and they have to start that plan within 7 days of the approval.
Good questions. Councilman Henderson, jump in. Ready or not?
Well, we appreciate you coming down here, and, you know, this is kind of what we've been wanting, is to have a meeting with all of us together, elected officials and the community that's affected, and just to kind of hear, you know, what's going on and what's being done about the issue, and we appreciate you being here. So it sounds like very glad that it was discovered that there was an active fire, and now we can take measures to, you know, to do that. And I just, as these guys, I hope it doesn't take 5 years or even 1 year, you know. It'd be wonderful if they could get it under control, because as Councilman Belliston said, I'm sure even once they do put the fire out, there's going to be a smell for months. You know, it's just kind of how fires are. But I'm glad we're able to pin down what the problem is and move forward. So thank you for being here. Appreciate your presentation. So.
Yeah, thank you for inviting us. And I don't want to leave without noting that we appreciate the community. They have been very kind, very respectful of the process, even though it's very frustrating, right? As we're trying to figure out and get the facts that allow us to take this next step. They've been great to work with and shared so much information with us that we couldn't have gotten unless we were here 24/7. So I want to make sure that I thank the community for that.
Yeah, I agree. Councilman Ivey.
Just one follow-up. Just out of curiosity, what would the consequences be if there's not a viable plan submitted? Or that you just can't really get past that first look? Do you then show them the plan that they're going to be required to do, or how does that look?
That's a really good question. I hope we don't get there. That's something we'll be looking at. This is a first for us, again, so we're also learning, right, how we're going to figure this out. I may have mentioned earlier, we have reached out to experts across the country who have experience in this. So we do have our fingers and our tentacles out to grab people if we need them. It's probably something legal. We'll have to figure out resources where we may need to go in and do some work on our own. And what that looks like, I'm not sure. But we will consider that as we get through this next process.
Again, thank you for being here.
Can I ask one more question? Just out of curiosity, it just popped in my mind. Are they able to continue to take material in as they're working on this and they just put it somewhere else?
Correct. We will consider that though as part of their plan because we don't want to put fuel in a fire, right?
I understand.
And so that will be part of what we look at is it a completely separate area that we're not concerned about any smoldering in that portion of the landfill? It's really tricky and not necessarily in our best interest if we make them stop accepting waste.
Well, it's
They
a
wouldn't
big,
have
it's a big
resources.
property, so I'm sure they
Yeah.
can.
But that's something we would consider. But if we shut them down completely, that shuts off their resources to manage the fire. And then unfortunately, it would take more time, right? It would just sit there.
Yeah.
But we do consider that as part of their plan, so.
Right on. Thank you.
Can you speak to what, if anything, is being done to help prevent, future fires from occurring at this C&D landfill?
Great question. So they do have a fire management plan, as all landfills do, which is put the fire out, right? And which they did. Because of this, we will have them do some additional things because of the topography and things like that we've discussed, so that it's a more robust plan. But the most landfill fire plans are put the fire out. And so that's something that we'll look at.
And they're continually monitoring the type of material that they're accepting, because most of this should be borderline non-combustible, really.
Right, right. Yeah. When a fire, I don't want to get into it, but lithium ion batteries are our worst nightmare right now.
So
And
as long as
so
they're not accepting batteries,
Yeah, and
we'll
it-
send them to your landfill, Councilman Coates.
they combust and then
Send 'em to
it's
Cedar.
just, someone throws it away, right? And it gets in this big pile of waste, and that's one of our biggest issues right now. Yeah.
Any additional questions, comments, council?
With the violation, is there costs associated with that? Like, is it just a violation of compliance letter? Or is there,
So there could be a penalty at some point. We can issue penalties, but our director cannot require them to pay. We have to go to court for that. So that's part of the process that we'll get to if we get there.
And so really, along that line, what is their incentive then to quickly resolve the issue?
It would be that, the penalty carrot at some point.
Okay.
This piece is, we needed to get this out the door as quickly as possible because it'll take them time to get a plan. And so that's what we're doing here. That will come in the next steps.
It'd be in their best interest then to seek out a consultant
Correct.
that has experience in this and that
Correct.
can start at a higher point.
Is that what you expect to happen?
I would assume so. We talked extensively with them about that today. So the next step of this type of process is generally what we call a stipulated consent order. And that's where the next steps, like what a penalty would look like, how they'll pay it, these types of things, making sure they're meeting the plan that they submitted, those things will come
And the plan
next.
includes a timeline based on
Timeline,
what
yep,
they find?
all of that's required. When we provide you the order, it's much more detailed than what I've summarized today.
City Manager, do you have anything to add to this conversation?
No, I appreciate you coming. If you can get me a copy of this, I'll get this up
I
on the
will.
website. This is
Tonight,
the
I'll send it.
most updated.
Yeah, okay, absolutely.
all the, like, the testing that you've done? And I think that would be helpful to see too.
Yeah.
I know you've shared it with the community members, but I think it'd be good to share that as well.
Yep, absolutely.
Councilman Ivey?
I have no more questions for these good folks, but I do have some general questions after, Mayor.
Brian, do you have anything to add to this conversation?
I really don't. I appreciate the questions and I appreciate Jalen being a point of contact at our department and doing such a great job of covering the issue.
Great. Well, thank you. Stay around for a few minutes. This is the last time. Would like to interact with you just a little bit before you're staying over. You're not leaving tonight.
No, I will be staying down in this beautiful city for another night.
There you go.
Thank you.
Well said. Thank you. Councilman Ivey?
Yes, Mayor, thank you. My questions are more general, just maybe way of information for the residents that are here and others that may be listening, for our city manager, our fire chief, and for those people that are tasked with keeping everyone safe and happy and healthy. I heard some reports that that there was 911 calls that some of you were told did not call 911. I would push back against that. I think you have the right to call anytime you feel like there is a health concern or something like that. I think that we have a way in the city to also submit code enforcement concerns to the city so that you can be documented and heard. I think that's important as well. I do see that we have a way forward now, and I ask for your continued patience and trying to work together in the very calm and respectful way that you've done so far. But I do want to encourage our staff to do everything they can do to stay on top of this minute by minute and try again to work in conjunction with all the agencies and every effort that we have throughout the county, the state, to stay on top of this and get it resolved as quickly as possible.
Thank you, Councilman. Anything else? That concludes the agenda for our workshop meeting. I'll call for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I have a motion by Councilman Coates, a second by Councilman Belliston. All in favor? Aye. We are adjourned. We'll reconvene for our regular meeting at 6 p.m. Good evening. Today is Wednesday, November 12th, 2025. We are in the council chambers of Washington City Hall for our regular meeting. Our meetings are streamed live and archived at washingtoncity.org/meetings. And we will begin our meeting the right way, and that is with the assistance of the Interfaith Council. Our friend Reverend Derek DeTony Hill of the Shepherd of the Hills United Methodist Church will start our meeting off. Reverend.
Once again, thank you for allowing us to be a part of your meetings and to open with prayer. You know, this is such a season of Thanksgiving. Yesterday, we thanked veterans and folks who have served us in that capacity. We are anticipating Thanksgiving in just 2 weeks, hard to believe. We're thankful for opportunities to give, especially at this time when so many people are struggling for various reasons and in our communities. And I want to call out your mayor, and Mayor Staley, thank you for last Saturday, a number of people from many congregations in Washington County gathered for Crop Walk, which was for hunger, both locally and worldwide. And Mayor Staley was there and a part of that. And we always appreciate that you take time out of your days to be part of that. So thank you. I'd invite us to pray. Gracious Lord, we thank you. We thank you for family, for love, for opportunities to serve. We thank you for these folks here before us who serve you through this city council and in various capacities. We thank you for the opportunities we have to celebrate the ways in which you have given us blessings of nature and beauty, blessings of food and family and connections. We lift before you those who are in need, and we lift before you these servants who are about making decisions and considering what might be best for this community. We pray for wisdom for them, for encouragement. We pray for them to be cognizant of how they indeed are servants and look to others for guidance and direction. Bless them, bless us, watch over, keep our families safe, and watch over this community. We ask this through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Reverend. And I know you have other duties to attend to, so we'll excuse you, but thank you for the difference you make in the community, and thank you for praying with us tonight and for us year round. Thank you. I've asked our city manager, Jeremy Redd, to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance this evening.
Please follow me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before I call for a motion to approve the agenda, I will make note that we do not have need to go into closed session this evening. And also, with your permission, council, would like to change the order of 6B and 6C. So after 6A, would like to go to 6C and then 6B. So I'll call for a motion to approve the agenda with that minor modification.
Make that.
I have a motion by Councilman Belliston, second by Councilman Ivy. All in favor?
Aye.
The agenda is approved. We'll move on to announcements. Veterans Day, the parade and the program was another great success. Appreciate the community and the staff pulling together to make that happen. If you're driving along Telegraph, you'll notice that there's a new Veterans Park sign there it's on a sandstone base with red brick that matches our downtown. And on the back, take some time to look at the collection of portraits of names and pictures of the 104 from Washington that served in World War II. That was nearly 25% of our entire population veteran. And Councilmember Belliston?
Well, I just wanted to, say thanks to B.A. Robinson who donated that sign as well, right? So.
Yeah.
They were very much appreciated to them.
Yeah, donated labor, and you'll find the story interesting if you have a chance just to look at the backside and look at those pictures and read the story. Continuing with announcements, there will be an open house for the Washington Dome trail system and reserve. The committee is continuing to receive comment, especially from the neighbors that live in that area. So on Saturday, November 15th from 2 to 4 p.m. at Shooting Star Park, they'll be taking public comments. On a special meeting will be held on Tuesday, November 18th at 4 p.m. for the election canvass. Congratulations to Councilman Casperson and Councilman Henderson. The city offices will be closed on Thursday and Friday, November 27th and 28th for the Thanksgiving holiday. The Christmas in Dixie event will begin at dusk or 6 p.m. on Monday, December 1st, right here at Veterans Park. Also, a new annual tradition is the USS Utah Remembrance Day, which will be held on Sunday, December 7th, and because it's on a Sunday, it will be held at 5 p.m. at the Heritage Hall, what was once the old gym, but has now been remodeled. A few of us were able to, Washington City has been leading out on remembering what's been considered the forgotten ship of World War II. There was a smaller ship that was used from World War I up until the beginning of World War II that was docked in Pearl Harbor and was the first ship sunk in that war. And because of where it was sunk and because of that area and size of it, the Arizona and others seem to be more recognized. But the USS Utah was a bit of a forgotten ship until a local resident, and it got here in Washington, took note and started to get traction with the resolution that went all the way up to the state of Utah. So with the new USS Utah, which is an $8 billion nuclear sub, Washington City has gotten on board as a supporter of that, what they call boat. I guess you don't call a submarine a ship, they call it a boat. And they say that everything else is a target. But a few of us, we all had the opportunity, a few of us took that opportunity on our own dime and went back to Groton, Connecticut for the christening of the new USS Utah, a state-of-the-art submarine. And it was our privilege to interact with the sailors, a cross-section of individuals from all across the country, and with the hard hat and steel-toed boot individuals who fabricated that submarine. And it was quite the event for us to be back there. And we were part of that Utah contingency and interacted with the captain and those that are sacrificing for that. As part of that, we just wanted to show at the beginning of this meeting just a few of the pictures of this event. This is a picture of Senator Mike Lee addressing that group. This is the group from Washington that went back, including a member of our Veterans Day Committee. This is right outside the electric boat where they build these massive, almost 400 feet long submarines. It's really pretty back there. Connecticut in the fall. Side note, on a morning run, it was quite the rave run. I saw a little bobcat on that trail. It was kind of fun. And these are Jordan's pictures, so I'm seeing them for the first time with you. And there's kind of this was that's kind of the middle of the nuclear sub there. It's the SSN 801, and it would have been 800, but we said, let's just make it the 801 because so much of the state has that as the area code. And then you can see that's kind of a raptor there with the Pisces, and then the slogan is Terror of the Deep, which is kind of cool. A few more of these, I think, there, David. And there's Councilman Ivy and myself with a few of the sailors there at the christening event. There's a better picture of the submarine from not even half of it, back half. And these are the actual sponsors of the boat. And they couldn't have been more classy and better than they were. They both Sharon Lee, wife of Senator Mike Lee, and Mary Kate Huntsman jointly sponsored the submarine, and their remarks just not only brought a tear to your eye, but just gave you chills. And it resonated with everyone in the crowd, but in particular, the sailors that will be on the boat, partly because Mary Kate Huntsman has two sons who are naval officers. And Sharon Lee, Senator Lee's wife, could not have been more articulate and more honored. It's really a responsibility for them primarily, but us as supporters to embrace this submarine for the 40 or 50 years that nuclear power will keep it running. And so Washington City, we've made that commitment as a community to be part of that support. Councilman Ivy with the senator, and I think that's it. Is that the last picture, David, I believe? And then we just had a special message. John Olson, if you could come forward, please. This is the resident that started this ball rolling with remembering the forgotten ship. And you might recognize your friend here. This is the captain of the USS Utah. And I think they actually call them Commander. Councilman Ivy, I believe you took this video. What do you have to say?
You know, John, we were saddened that you couldn't join us. And knowing that this is your passion, it's so important to you. I had a chance to visit with Commander Horning, and he offered this. Go ahead and please watch it. Go ahead and run it.
Okay. Hey, John. Hope you're enjoying the day back in Utah. We had an awesome day today christening the ship. The sponsors are incredible. The team that flew out from your town is super supportive, and we're having an amazing time. Keep up the good work back in Utah, and I'll see you next year. Carry on.
He remembered you. He remembered our conversation we had down at the George Washington Plaza some time ago. He was inspired by your drive and dedication to a common goal to not only bring positive attention to our armed forces, but particularly to the naval, to the Navy, to the submarine, and for all the sailors that man that. But he wanted me to share his personal appreciation for you and everything you've done here in Utah to help promote the USS Utah.
Thank you. Before you go anywhere, there are a few things that Councilman Ivy is going to present to you that we brought back from that event. Councilman Ivy.
Well, it's just an honor to know that the legacy of the USS Utah is in the hands of SSN 801, Commander Horning and the crew, and the legacy will go forward forever.
John Olson.
Here's a USS Utah SS 801 hat with the Utah Raptor on it. On the back, Terror of the Deep. Here's a hat. We hope that fits you. Here's some lanyard for you and your wonderful wife to remember it every day with your keys. We got you a nice sticker, and this is a note that the local elementary kids made for all the veterans, and you being a veteran, we brought that for you. Here's a program and something for your Dodge pickup.
Chief, don't pull him over if he puts that on, okay?
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Next item of business, council, is there any declaration or abstentions or conflicts?
Yeah, Mayor, item 5C, the firm I work for created that map, but I do plan on voting on it.
Okay. Duly noted. Anything else, council? We'll move on to the consent agenda, which consists of approval of minutes from the city council meeting of 10/22/15 and the board audit report from October 2025. I'm happy to call for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Mayor, I'll make that motion. We approve the consent agenda as outlined.
You've heard the motion by Councilman Coates. Second by Councilman Belliston. All in favor?
Aye.
The consent agenda is reviewed and approved. Item 5, resolutions. 5A. Now, as a just kind of a matter of protocol, mayors do proclamations. Councils make and approve resolutions, which makes this item all the more meaningful as a united body. This council has drafted and brought this forward. 5A is a consideration to approve a resolution honoring the life of Charlie Kirk. Councilwoman Kim Casperson, you led this. Is there anything you would like to say?
Well, really, I just want to thank our community members who brought this forward. I think that this event affected all of us in different ways, and I just appreciate, our community bringing this forward and wanting to do something for it. So really, the credit goes to, those who in our community who wanted to do something. So thank you.
It will be my privilege to read and then sign this resolution. But first, council, I will turn to you for further discussion and or a motion on this particular item.
Mayor, I'd make a motion to approve a resolution honoring the life of Charlie Kirk.
I have a motion
Second.
by Councilman Kurt Ivey and a second by Councilwoman Kim Casperson. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The resolution is passed unanimously. I'll go ahead and read this for the record. Resolution R 2025-30, honoring the life and legacy of Charlie James Kirk. Whereas our community mourns the passing of Charlie Kirk, whose life and work touched many, regardless of differing views. And whereas the celebration of death, whether of a public figure or any person, harms the dignity of our community and diminishes the humanity we share. And whereas labels and stereotypes, when used to divide or dehumanize, fuel cycles of hostility that have no place where charity and respect are at the core of our community. And whereas the misuse of authority, whether through government, institutions, or social influences to silence or punish based on beliefs, undermines the very principles of liberty and self-governance. And whereas our homes and public institutions hold the responsibility to cultivate an environment of mutual respect, where disagreements are resolved through dialogue, not division. Now, therefore, be it resolved that we affirm the following commitments. Honor the dignity of life. We recognize the passing of Charlie Kirk with respect and reject any celebration of harm or death toward others, regardless of their beliefs. End the weaponization of labels. No person or community member shall be attacked or diminished based on political, cultural, racial, religious, or personal identifiers. End the weaponization of authority. The powers entrusted to schools, governments, political institutions, and community leaders shall not be used to silence lawful speech encourage violence, or glorify hostility. Promote civil discourse. Opposing ideas can be shared respectfully, disagreements addressed constructively, and empathy cultivated alongside critical thought. Model self-governance. We commit to lead by example, demonstrating that peace, dignity, and freedom can be preserved even in the face of deep differences. Be it further resolved that this proclamation honors the life of Charlie Kirk and affirms our responsibility to reject violence, division, and dehumanization, instead fostering a culture of respect, unity, and peaceful coexistence. Passed and approved on the 12th day of November, 2025. Tara, I'm going to sign this now and hand the resolution off to you. Item 5B, consideration to approve a compensation resolution for Utah Local Governments Trust. It's a formality. You see that in your packet. If there's no discussion on this item, I'm happy to entertain a motion.
Mayor, I'll make a motion. We approve the compensation resolution for Utah Local Government Trust.
I have a motion by Councilman Coates, second by Councilman Henderson. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That resolution is approved unanimously. Item 5C, Councilman Coates has noted, but we'll be voting. This is consideration to approve a resolution accepting an annexation petition known as the Washington City Annexation. City Recorder Tara Pence.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. We received the notice of annexation petition, and part of the process is within 14 days of the notification, we bring it to council for your acceptance. So the petition is for 4,294 acres. It's all BLM land. It is within our annexation policy plan. Part of this approval, this does not approve the annexation. It just starts the process for me to begin the notification and going through the affected entities process.
Okay.
So if you have any questions, it is a kind of a lengthy process, and I'm working with that on it because state law changed again. But I think we've got a good handle on where we need to go next, but it might not be back to you until January.
Thad, what would you add before we open it to the council?
Tara's done a good job. The only thing I would add is this is the beginning of this process. The statutory process is intentionally structured with a lot of public opportunity to comment because annexations can traditionally be something that gets really debated. The process tonight would be the council's decision, if they so choose, to accept the petition, which is really the beginning of the process. If you accept it, you will have a subsequent meeting where you would make a decision on whether to ratify an annexation.
Councilman Coates, do you have a question, comment? Any questions, comments from the council?
You can make a motion if you're.
Ready for a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve a resolution accepting an annexation petition known as the Washington City East Annexation.
You've heard the motion by Councilman Casperson. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Coates. All in favor? Any opposed? That is approved unanimously. Thank you, Tara. Thank you, Thad. And thank you, Jordan Hess. I know you did the bulk of that work behind the scenes. So the ball is now rolling. We'll move on to the next section of the agenda, which is public hearings. I will make note that the City Council received no electronic public hearing, public comment on any of the items noticed for public hearing. Item 6A is a public hearing and consideration to approve an ordinance for a road abandonment, vacation, located at 840 South and 100 East. Council, I'm sure you looked at the map and can see why this is being done. John Hinkie, that doesn't get you out of presenting to the council. Assistant Public Works Director. Nice to see you.
What's that?
Did I give you a promotion?
Yeah, I'll take it.
Talk to Jeremy later about the commensurate raise.
I'll see you tomorrow.
Tell me your exact title. I always thought it was Assistant Director.
No, that's,
Lester and Andy. Okay,
yeah. New Development Manager.
that's pretty good. Pretty good still.
All right, back to the item at hand. If you've seen your exhibit, we're, as part of the development there at 840 and 100 East, storage unit complex that's slated to go in. We need to vacate right away. That would have been clear back when, the extension of Main Street, as well as a sanitary sewer easement. Currently, our sanitary sewers are running through there. As part of the project, it will be relocated, at which time they'll provide us with a new easement for the relocation of that sanitary sewer main. So happy to answer any questions that you have. This is mainly just to facilitate the storage unit complex project to get going.
John, is this an easement or is it an actual dedicated property that the city owns? Because when I looked on the county map, it didn't look like it was, looked like an easement because I couldn't find it on the property maps.
Come on up, and if you'll just state your name and
Tyler Hughes with Rosenberg Associates.
get right in there at the mic, my friend. I keep my.
I'm Tyler Hughes with Rosenberg Associates.
There you go. We should get a taller mic for guys like you.
That's all good. No, so that, if you look on the county side, it doesn't show up, but when we started digging through it, it basically said that the city owned it or was dedicated to the city at some point, so we're trying to get rid of the right of way. Doesn't really affect anything.
Yeah, okay, that's good to know. Some of those questions, just as we move forward, some of these, do they make sense that if the city owns it, do we get compensated for it?
Process, yeah.
You know, so that's why I was asking. If it's an easement, that's an old prescriptive easement that's been there forever. I just think it's different than if you actually own it. But, based on the county, it doesn't really look like we owned it, but did own it, some technical, some.
So this is one that comes from a historical town plating document, and those did convey ownership to the cities. Just the history that followed didn't always look and feel like it was public ownership. So in the south block of the city, south of Telegraph, and in some of it north, but more so on the south because they spent more plating time down north, there's roadways and things like this that are there that as uses come along, we're going to have to.
That makes total sense. It's more of just a general note, like usually these things, if they aren't like this, if it's along a roadway and we're giving up property, usually there should be compensation to the city to help fund some of the improvements that need on these type of roads. So, but this one makes sense. It's a field that no one's used, and so.
Yeah, good comments. Thank you. Council, any additional questions or comments on this before I open the public hearing? Thank you, gentlemen. This is a public hearing, so anyone who would like to speak to item 6A, this is your opportunity to come and express your opinion on the abandonment of this property and/or easement. Seeing no one come forward, I will close the public hearing and turn to the council for further discussion and/or a motion.
Mayor, I'll make a motion, we approve the abandonment/vacation located at 840 South and 100 East.
You've heard the motion by Councilman Coates. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Belliston. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That is approved unanimously, 5-0. As was approved with this agenda, we're going to now move to item 6C, and then we'll come back to 6B. Thad.
6B and 6C are eminent domain items for the same project. There is attorney Mr. James Purcell here. He's got a 7 o'clock volunteer commitment. If you wouldn't mind letting him speak on behalf of his client, maybe before the staff report.
You bet, yeah. No, that's just fine.
Also, I think both of these could be called during the same
We'll run it
opening of a public
concurrently.
hearing. Yeah.
Council, with your permission, we'll run 6B and 6C concurrently.
Yes.
Motion be concurrent as well, noticing both.
Just move to open them both and then move to close them both.
Council, I'm going to call for a motion to run item 6B and 6C concurrently. Have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We'll run these concurrently. We'll start prior to staff report. We'll invite Mr. James Purcell. It's nice to see you again. We'll let you present first, then we'll circle back to staff. Go ahead, James.
Thank you for accommodating council. You're all probably familiar with this piece of property, and if not, hopefully you'll be able to visualize what we're talking about. I represent my clients, Bernie and Kathy Burris, and they are the owners of parcel W5236118. And it's my understanding the city is looking to do, take through eminent domain, a sliver of their property on the west side. And it's a sliver that borders, I shouldn't say sliver, I mean, it's an acre, but it goes down the entire length of the property. And they're taking it, and it's right up against the BLM property. My client's main concerns that he wanted me to at least articulate to the city council so you could be aware of them and obviously make a decision accordingly is, number one, we have a concern on valuation. I think the city's done a valuation for the property. We view it as being low. And then the other concern, which is maybe even just as, if not more important than the valuation, is their concern is that by taking that section, he loses access or loses his direct abutting up to the BLM property, which he thinks has value. I've reached out to THAD. We're following the process. We've actually reached out to the property rights ombudsman up in Salt Lake, Jordan Cullimore. We started the mediation process pursuant to Utah code. We're getting a second appraiser. We hope to expedite that process because I know you guys are trying to move quickly as well. So from our perspective, we're trying to go as quick as we can. We're going to get that second appraisal. We're going to have mediation, hopefully in the very near future. So my request, hopefully for the city council, is they table a vote on eminent domain just yet, so we can run through the mediation process and avoid litigation. Obviously, if the eminent domain goes forward, it's just going to start a lawsuit, whereas we believe that we can try to resolve this through mediation, which we're actively pursuing right now. The second and last thing I wanted to get on the council's radar is perhaps the idea of, instead of an eminent domain proceeding, that you consider an easement. I think my client would be open to that idea, and I'm not exactly sure on all the particulars as to what you want the area for. It's my understanding you're going to be running a pipe underneath my client's property. That's the main purpose for this long, narrow strip that you're getting. If that's the case, without making a formal commitment, but I do know my client indicated he would be open to discussions whereby he sells an easement to the city, obviously run with the land in perpetuity, so you have it forever. Or vice versa, if you were to do eminent domain and take the property, that we could maybe get an easement across the property. Once again, one of his main objectives is to be able to eventually put, whether it's 5 or 25 years down the road, develop and or improve the property, and having access to the BLM land he views as paramount or very important to him. So I just wanted to relay all of that to you if you have any questions. But the hope is, number one, you table the vote, and number two, at least consider the idea of an easement, as I believe that might be an amicable resolution.
So stay here, I'll address those and we'll still get you to your appointment on time. The first thing I can, to your first point, I can promise we're not going to vote on it tonight because it's only a public hearing. And to your second point, we would love to be able to come to a resolution that works well for both parties. So continue to work with our legal counsel. We have a great relationship with you. We really, all we're trying to do here is we're trying to provide water for our residents in a growing area of the city. And so sometimes in order to get those negotiations to the table, the council has to, this is not what we want to do. We want to be able to have fair exchange of value for property. So yeah, we're not going to vote on it tonight, but I'm going to open up the public hearing in a little bit. And then it sounds like you're going to continue working with our staff to find a resolution. And at some point, it'll come back to this council for that vote. Or for approval for, disposition of the property.
Awesome. Thank you. I'll stick around for 5 more minutes and I'll take off, but thank you again for your time.
Sounds good. Okay, I'm not going to open the public hearing just yet. I'm going to read item 6B and 6C, and then I am going to turn it over to our real Assistant Public Works Director, Lester Dalton, who I often refer to as our resident rock star. But it's just, I just don't want him to get too humble on us. But 6B is a public hearing to discuss eminent domain of certain property along with all associated rights in that property known as Washington County Tax Parcel ID W-5-2-36-111, which property location is approximately west of Southern Parkway and north of George Washington Boulevard, Washington, Utah 84780. Item 6C, public hearing to discuss an eminent domain of certain property along with all associated rights in that property known as Washington County Tax Parcel ID W-5-2-36-118, which property location is approximately west of Southern Parkway and north of George Washington Boulevard, Washington 84780. Lester, come on up and present to the council.
Mayor, as Lester's making his way up, the way we've planned this is in an effort to give the most public notice and public chance for the council to interact with the landowners. We're having just a public hearing tonight.
That's right.
Not asking for a vote, giving the opportunity to receive feedback so the council and staff can digest that as it may be. And then we would need a subsequent public hearing, a subsequent notice period before the council could make a decision or pass a resolution authorizing the filing of an eminent domain lawsuit.
And I see the other property owner here as well. We'll definitely give you an opportunity to speak after Lester, okay? Go ahead, Lester.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, council. Hopefully everybody had an opportunity to read the staff report. A little bit of background on this. This project that we're working on, we've referred to it as the Majestic Tank Farms and the pipeline to accommodate them tanks once they are constructed. Location of these facilities is crucial, not only from a geographical location, but also elevation. The reason we've chosen this site, we've actually been out, we've visited the site, we've walked the site, we know that it's workable from an elevation perspective, and constructible, and then just geographically, it's able to serve the area that we need it to serve. These tanks are intended to serve the entire southern end of Washington Fields as a whole, all the way from our existing development there, kind of along George Washington Boulevard, the remainder of the city property all the way to the south, everything that's incorporated within the city. They'll also supplement our existing facilities and just accommodate the growth that we're having in Washington Fields as a whole. Like I said, the elevation on these at this location is critical. Water tanks, it's a direct derivative of the pressure that we need to have. These tanks would actually match elevation of two existing tanks that we already have serving this area.
And Lester, for those here that aren't in the retail water service, can you just talk about that pressure is elevation, gravity fed primarily?
Yes, it is all gravity fed. It's 100% gravity fed out of these tanks, and that's where that elevation comes into play. These tanks have to match the elevation of the other tanks in order for the system to operate properly, prevent one tank from draining while the others remain full. I mean, it's a complete balancing act.
Science to it.
Yes. And there's a lot that goes into siting tanks. This will be the first situation in Washington where we have multiple tanks within a single location. We could actually do it with one very large tank, but operationally that presents all kinds of problems. This is more of a phased approach that we put in place here by looking at it as 3 tanks. But part of that approach also brings in the necessity, we have to have the room for them when they do come in the future. So this kind of takes us to the end game of build out in Washington Fields. And by getting to where we are currently with the current proposal, that would get us there. With the land acquisition, we would not build all of the tanks at this time. Initially, we'd start with a single tank, a single pipeline, and that would be followed up by the additional tanks and a larger diameter pipeline in the future.
So,
Councilman Belson.
yeah, why would you do a smaller pipeline and then come back and add a bigger pipeline later? Why not just put a bigger pipeline in for capacity? And I mean, I can see building the tanks as you need them.
Very similar situation as well with that environment. Depending upon how the future plays out with the source water that's going to come for these tanks, it's looking like we're going to end up with another pump, which at that point, that second pipeline would be carrying source water. Right now, these tanks would just kind of float online with our existing source and provide us with the storage that we need. But the additional tanks are going to require additional source water to come in, and at that time, that's when the second pipeline will come into play. We could potentially,
I'm asking because these dollars on pipeline is a whole lot cheaper than normal dollars on pipeline.
right, but at the same time, we don't have the funding to try and put in a 36-inch diameter pipeline at this time, not knowing for sure how the system's gonna operate in the future with source versus use. What do you mean?
Cost.
Cost? Yeah, currently, we're looking at a 16-inch line that would go in today and potentially a 24 or 30 in the future, depending upon where everything comes in.
It also
And a lot
helps-
of it is cost as well.
It also
Impact
helps
fees,
water quality
ability
too,
to collect.
having two separate lines and feeding one versus another. The water can get stagnant on those bigger lines.
Right.
Is it also good to have two pipes? So
It
just in
is.
case something
From-
happens to one, you still have the other pipe that is,
Yes, from a
Serving the-
redundancy perspective, it also gives us some latitude as well to be able to perform work on one if something goes wrong and have the other one there as a backup. We may not be able to fully serve, but we can keep water coming out of the taps in that environment.
So you really don't know when you might need those other tanks. You have to get a source, it has to be funded, it has to be growth.
Right.
Growth has to
Yeah,
be
we can look
apparent.
to the capital facilities plan, and the remaining source falls out in that 10 to 20-year window, as well as the additional tanks. But from today's perspective, the decisions that we're making today are kind of sealing the deal for the future. There's not any other elevation that's available out there. We had to search long and hard to find the elevation here that wasn't just unbelievably cost prohibitive from a distance perspective.
Lester, let me ask you a question. Why didn't you recommend taking this access road further to the north and placing the tanks further to the north, higher up on Washington Dome?
Well, once again, we're elevation driven. The elevation actually skirts, the elevation that we need skirts down to the southwest and kind of skirts around in several of them parcels. If you kind of look at the topography and how that lays in there, it would impact numerous different parcels.
Eldon
to
Pond in the south, just a little-
accommodate the same elevation that we need. Or we would be dramatically farther distance-wise on the BLM property. And I think timing-wise, with BLM and the federal government, if they're even open to the concept, last conversations that we had with BLM is that getting right-of-ways from BLM for infrastructure is getting to be very, very difficult.
Council, additional questions for Lester before I invite the applicant on 6B to come forward?
So Lester, you've done your homework, and this is the location that we need.
Yes.
There's not really anywhere else. This is what we have to make it work.
Right. Like I said, we looked at numerous parcels up there, some of the impacts to the south, just geographically and topographically. I mean, this is some really steep, tough terrain out there to be able to get, to get these all to work and function the way that they need to and not have dramatic impacts on additional properties.
And you've acquired property for access and pipe road to the south?
Yes, so we already have easement. We do not have ownership, fee title ownership back to George Washington Boulevard. We have an easement that carries us north to the beginning of the impacts of this particular project. And that's, that's something that we'll continue to look at. We may end up approaching them for fee title ownership in the area that we currently have easement. That easement will allow us the ability to get the pipelines in and to use it for access for our purposes. It will not provide for public open access or anything like that. So, long-term, things may change. But for today, we're looking for a pipeline and tanks.
Yeah.
That's the infrastructure that we need to get in place.
Thanks, Lester. Don't go too far. I see I met Terry here with the applicant on item 6B. If you'll come forward and introduce yourself and speak to this item, please. Thank you for making the drive up from Las Vegas.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, thank you for.
And right there into the mic there, Terry.
I'm Terry Cipher. I'm the co-owner of the property.
Pull that right in so they can hear you. Say it any more time.
Hi, I'm Terry Cipher. I'm the co-owner of the property, and this is Robert Wagner, my co-owner.
Okay.
I have some prepared notes, but if I could respond to some of Lester's comments.
Time is yours, yes.
He indicates that the tanks are necessary because of the elevation of the property, but the way the Washington Dome is structured, our property is not anywhere near the top of the Washington Dome. And so the BLM property that is in the entire north of our property as well as east of our property, there's all kinds of higher elevations.
So I can maybe explain that. Elevate the water.
Yeah.
When you're in a tank, you need the right elevation so that the pressures aren't too high down here. If you go higher, they'll be too high and they won't work. And then it's also filling the tank meets the same elevation as our current tanks, so the system will push the water into the tank without it. So changing the elevation, you can't just go uphill or downhill. It affects the pressure zones of the system.
Yes.
So that's why the elevation where it's at is so critical.
Okay. The bordering property of the BLM property is really close. I would say almost exactly the elevation of our property. If not, it's maybe even a little bit lower. So if you move farther up the hill, it does increase in elevation. So there's all kinds of options there that I believe you could get the same elevations from in a very, very close distance. It's not, I know it was mentioned about the cost of the pipeline, but you wouldn't have to move the tanks that far. And this part was a little distressing to me because I've been dealing with Tanya with Avenue Consultants, and I've questioned her because this property's been in our family for 60 years, and we really wanted to hold on to it. But I asked her why BLM wasn't being considered, and she told me that the BLM is very difficult to work with. That they would only offer a land lease, and so that this was, in essence, just an easier route for the city to take. And that's, as long as we've held that property, that's really upsetting to hear. So that's definitely one of my concerns.
What else? And Mr. Wagner, if you have anything to add too, the time is both of yours.
He's got a statement that he wants to read.
Sure. And we're happy to keep a copy of that for the record as well, if you'd like.
Okay. I have been talking with a consultant that was hired by the city and have been told there are plans for the construction of one water tank, with 2 more potentially being constructed in the future. I have looked on the city's website and it only mentions the construction of 1 Majestic tank. There is no mention of other tanks. I have asked for clarification on this and only received a document showing all 3 tanks. So I still don't understand, and it was clarified by Lester today, that really it's a phased approach, it sounds like, that you're only building 1 tank, but you're trying to condemn property for all 3 tanks. And I think Lester even mentioned it's going to depend on what happens with the city as to when or even if those get built. So that's what I had been asking for a long time. And so I would be, I understand that the city has its needs, and I don't want to be an impediment to that. But, also right now where you're only building 1 tank, I feel like it's a lot fairer to only take the property that is for immediate construction, not something that could potentially happen down the road, because maybe it won't. Because of all this, and me and Bob are not attorneys, it just all seemed very complicated. We did talk to an attorney. So this is the comments from my attorney. Utah law prohibits condemning property for which there is no immediate public need. Land banking property for future construction projects is not permitted. In fact, Utah law allows condemnation actions to be reversed for projects which are not constructed and completed within a reasonable time frame. The condemnation here is purported to be for 3 tanks, but my understanding is the city only plans to start construction for 1 of those tanks. The city cannot condemn land for 3 tanks when it only intends to build 1 now. Land banking land for future tanks violates Utah law. It is excessive and not limited to what is needed for an existing public use. To go on, our property is 10 acres. The city seeks approximately 7 acres. But again, to my understanding, the property is not needed for current construction plans. Therefore, the taking is excessive and not permitted because there's no existing public use of 3 tanks, only 1 tank. If the city authorizes the taking for the full 7 acres, it will be challenged in court, and we believe the eminent domain action will be dismissed. And then regarding the access road, because there was some discussion about the way the access road comes into our property and the way they want to take the 7 acres is that unless we have access to that road, it would cut me off from accessing my remaining property. So again, a concern. The city does not need, this is the attorney, the city does not need to condemn the access road in fee simple unless it intends to make it a public road. The city could simply condemn an access easement for the road if all it is using for is accessing the tank. Utah law requires that the project be constructed with the least private injury. Condemning a large swath of our property for a road is not necessary and does not cause the least amount of private injury. Regardless if the city condemns the property in fee simple or an easement for the access road, we request that the city council confirm that we have the right to use the road to access our remaining property. Otherwise, you'll be leaving our property landlocked. The city has offered no compensation for leaving the property landlocked. So we were assuming that we would have the right to access that on that road.
Can I ask you a quick question?
Yes.
So is this the only parcel you own in the area?
Yes.
Aren't you currently landlocked?
No, because we have access through BLM.
How do you have access through BLM?
And the road that goes,
And just share that mic there, Robert, thank you.
the road that he was just pointing out goes right to the southeast corner of our property. I was on it a week ago.
Yeah.
And it goes within 5 feet of the stake that stakes the.
But there's a legal access easement that goes across that, or is it just a dirt road?
Again, I'm not an attorney, but I've read, and my understanding through the other adjacent property owner is that he has confirmed multiple times with the BLM that if the BLM land borders your property and there's existing roads there, the BLM will honor those roads, those existing roads.
I'm just asking what type of access you have or don't have. I just know there's a bunch of properties in here that are kind of landlocked as well.
Exactly, and that's what, I mean, ours is a little bit differentiated because we do have access from the BLM side, is my understanding. Again, I'm not an attorney. I appreciate that. And I think as mentioned by the attorney, Mr. Purcell earlier, we also have concerns with the appraisal that was done. The appraiser said he had a very difficult time finding comparable properties. One of the comparables was in a flood zone in a wash over in Bloomington, and the others were questionable as well.
And 4 years old.
Yeah, and
very little adjustment for what's happened in the price.
Yeah, with the prices. So in summary, we request that you limit the resolution to condemning only what is currently necessary for the city's funded tank construction project. The city should also only condemn an easement rather than a road in fee simple. We also request that the city confirm that we will have the right to use the access road in the future to accessing the remaining property. So we really appreciate it. And like I said,
There's one other thing too, and that is we're not anxious to have the city have to go. We're not anxious to have the city have to go through the condemnation process. We would prefer to deal with the city and make everybody happy. But we have to look at our concerns as well. And so the consideration of what we call a very low appraisal Mr. Burris's attorney has comps according to, or Mr. Burris told us that he has comps that are very, very different, but because Utah is a state that doesn't require all sales to be public, we didn't have access to those. So we needed some time to access those other comps to see what he's talking about, because the numbers are polarized. Like, you couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. When he told me what he's saying his property's worth, I couldn't believe it. So anyway, we'd like to work with the city, and we'd like to come to an agreement with the city, and we're not, the idea of litigation is a last resort. It's not our primary concern. My grandmother's not buried on that property, so I'm not that worried about it, but we would prefer to deal with the city than to not deal with the city.
Whose grandmother is buried there?
Nobody. To the best of my knowledge, nobody's buried there, unless it's some Indian, back in before we've owned it.
Yeah.
So that's all I wanted to add is it sounded like we want to go to court. We don't want to go to court. No. We would prefer to settle. But we've been told, a lot of different things that didn't work out to be the same, and they were talking about easements. And I talked to somebody here, and they told me if we signed the easement to be able to access the property, we gave up none of our rights. Then the easement came to us, and we read it, and it said you give up 100% of your rights. All you can do is negotiate the price. And so I'm going, well, why did you tell us we gave up none of our rights, so we didn't sign the easement? But if the easement would have said what they said it said, we would have signed it immediately. So then we went to the ombudsman, and the ombudsman said, once you sign that paper, you have no right to the land. All you can do is argue about the price you're being paid for it.
I'll just
And so,
clarify,
if-
counsel.
Huh?
It was the occupancy agreement. It wasn't an easement document. It was the occupancy agreement.
Okay,
which-
whatever, they told us if we'd sign
Sure.
it, we gave up none of our rights.
Yeah.
And both the ombudsman and our attorney said, don't sign this, you give up 100% of your rights.
Yeah, and our point is,
We don't have a
because-
problem letting them go on the
Yeah,
land and use it.
Yeah, because I think they wanted to go in and start sampling and testing, and we were totally fine with that. We do want to work with the city, but when we saw we gave up all our rights, we didn't, we weren't willing to sign that.
Well, really appreciate your remarks and your feedback. This is very helpful. Appreciate your prepared comments and the comments you made tonight. Is there anything else that you'd like to say?
No.
Okay, thank you, Terry, Robert, appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Lester or Thad, is there anything you'd like to say before we open the public hearing? And then or Blake, and really, again, tonight, it's a public hearing. We're not taking a vote. We're just, the process, as Thad explained earlier, this is just the first step in the process. Thad and then Blake, it looks like.
Mayor, I won't say much more, but I do want to emphasize that this city and its legal department embrace the public's right to be involved with an eminent domain decision if that's what the council decides to do. I also want to just make sure that it's clearly stated, this is a project where there is not a current road, so a road needs to be built and constructed both for access, for construction, and for perennial maintenance thereafter. And within that road right-of-way, there needs to be the placement of permanent structures of pipelines and service elements that go with that. And then at the top of it, there needs to be the placement of permanent water tanks and the structures that go with that. And so for that reason, the Public Works Department prefers the concept of an acquisition and fee, because the city's going to be needing it to drive across, to dig and install within, to dig and repair within. We might be able to work, and I'll commit to do this on behalf of the council. I'll work with the Public Works Department and see if there's solutions to how that road could be used by others, or whether others can cross that road to get to the BLM, because those are interesting issues and probably issues that we haven't looked at close enough until, again, we get the commentary in a public hearing, and that's why we do these. And so we'll work on some of those things. In eminent domain, the hardest point's always the battle of appraisals. The city didn't go farm their favorite appraiser. We just used the reputable appraiser in town, and state law allows the landowners to go get their appraiser. And so we support that, we embrace that. And if they'll obtain those, that'll give us the chance to talk in the direction of both appraisals and the amounts that they show.
Thank you, Thad. Blake? And we know you, but for the record, yeah.
Yeah, Blake Fonsbeck, Public Works Director. I just wanted to, as there was talk about the tanks and the tank farm, the reason that we have set this up, one of the reasons is the fact that we see this demand happening, and in our master plan, we actually had these 3 tanks they weren't all in this location, but this was the only place we could find where we could maximize our.
So there were 3
usage.
tanks, but
There
not
were 3
necessarily
tanks.
in the same location.
Correct. And
Okay.
as we looked at sites, some of those, we had looked at one down in the BLM, kind of east of the airport. But that's when they kind of told us that, no, we're not really interested in doing any more water tank. And that's where all the elevation was. And so we got this idea to put this all together. But the way this is going to work is we're already behind for the first tank because of the length of time we've had just in trade.
In terms of demand?
In demand and in being able to construct it. We haven't even been able to design yet because we can't get on the property to do that. And so we have the design and testing of the first one, but then the way our capital facilities plan is put out, we will probably, by the time that first one's done, we'll be designing and preparing to do the next one soon after that. We really, over the next 5 to 7 years, we'll be doing 3. We actually have 4 tanks. There's one other tank that we have planned in further out, but these will be the 3 critical ones with all the growth in ARA and those areas down there. This is critical to get these moving, and otherwise we run into issues with fire flow and other things like that. So it's a critical thing, and it won't, we're not building it all at the same time, but it will be like one right after another, is what the plan is.
When you say that 4th tank is further out, is that further out in time or further out in location?
It's further out in time.
So,
It's-
but
it's
it would
probably
be,
the
it would
last.
still be at the same location, so,
No, the 4th tank will be somewhere else.
okay, so time and location.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
never mind.
Yeah, you're right. So anyway, I just want to make that clear that we're in storage is everything when you're talking about the large commercial projects that are going in, industrial projects and that, and fire flow is what we need. And so in those senses, we're doing this to really keep that going, and it's growing so fast out there that we're scrambling as it is. So we won't be sitting around with an empty space for very long. So.
Understood. Thank you, Blake.
Thanks.
Appreciate it. At this time, I am going to officially open the public hearing for items 6B and 6C in regards to eminent domain of certain property along with all associated rights in that property known as Washington County Tax Parcel ID W-5-2-36-111 and W-5-2-36-118. Is there anyone from the public who would like to speak to these items? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing for both items 6B and 6C. And we will move on in the agenda to item number 7. Actually, you know what, that's right. Additional comment or discussion amongst the council. I apologize about that, council. I should have thought that. Go ahead, Councilman Ivey.
So Thad, I'm just wondering, the landowners specifically said that eminent domain for one tank as opposed to three. Is there a difference, or is it a distinction without a difference, or help me understand?
So the city's not allowed to take by eminent domain power a piece of land that they hope to use someday. In this case, the city has identified the elevations, identified the quantity of gallons of water that need to be stored at that elevation, identified the route for the pipelines and how that'll connect to the system and service all the area around it. And so the city feels that there is a pretty good basis for an eminent domain taking, even though 1/3 or 2/3 of the tanks may not be built for a year or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, because all of those end up working in a system together. And the first tank needs the road just as much as 3 tanks need the road.
So specifically, Thad, what I want to know is, we can do eminent domain for one tank, same as 3 tanks, only we need 1 now and possibly 3 in the future.
So the challenge becomes, where on their 10-acre parcel do you want to place the 1 tank, right? And a point that would get debated as well, right? They would probably ask you to take it on the farthest corner so that you don't touch anything else. And then you'd be coming back in 2 years or whatever to take the next tank and take the next one. The city's preference, and the city thinks the fairest part would be to let them know early and often, how much acreage the city's going to want to take and deal with that up front. But do I think the council could parcel it out to 1 at a time? I think you could if you wanted. I know that Works is planning more than 1 at a time.
I also think there's a significant cost if we do that. Top of just the land, you're back at this whole process again, and then the additional grading cost and building the tank, like it just adds and adds and adds.
And you also have to then protect that property from development, which makes it somewhat useless for the property owner, because we don't want anything else to happen there, because we need to try to save it for a future tank. This does that and accomplishes all those things.
And it makes sense. That was.
Yeah, the site, if acquired, would be graded and would be cuts and fills of slopes, and so it would be, just prepared with whatever retails and different elements for a site for 3, for a tank farm, not just for a single tank. And then 1 tank or 3, the road and it are all going to same access need.
You know about the access from the BLM? Do you know about that?
I'm aware of a lot of trails out through there, and it makes sense to me that the owners are aware of which one gets to their land. I do believe the BLM has a policy of saying you yourself can access your land with that, but I don't believe the BLM would allow them to subdivide into 50 lots and invite 50 new owners to access. I don't think the BLM would allow them to and pave it like the city would require for a development, for example. And so the city putting a road through there is a value for these landowners if it's a road that is determined that they can use. And again, we haven't had that conversation. That's a request that's come up today, but there is a road to the land today that they're being candid with the city. And when they say that, I don't believe the BLM would agree that that road could be split into 50 lots and serve 50 driveways for 50 houses on that land, though.
All the utilities as well, right?
Correct. They across the BLM for any sort of subdivision, sort of development of a residence or any other structure up there, they would need to have a much more different process through the BLM than just the dirt road that gets them across the surface today.
So Mayor, I more have just a statement, is that, I don't take this, and I know the council doesn't take eminent domain lightly. Like, there's been a process to understand, appraisals have been out, offers have been made. I know that we've even talked about doing more than the appraised value to help kind of make it better. I just felt like we came to an impasse where we couldn't, the value they wanted was way too much compared to what the appraisal came back. And I think we want to resolve it either. None of us want to go through eminent domain, but at the critical aspect of this is we have to get going. And if we can work it out in the meantime before we have to make that decision, I'm all about it. It's critical that we get these water tanks going, and But, I mean, this is the first time I've had to do this in 6 years on council, and I don't want to do it. I'd rather just work it out and make an agreement. We just have to agree on what makes sense for the public and the property owners who own the property, who have value. We just got to come to an agreement. So if we can just figure that out in the next couple of weeks, then we need to move forward.
Terry, Robert, and I'm not inviting you back up, but just looking for a nod. I assume you're happy to continue those conversations with staff here, and you probably have similar motivation to find a. Okay.
Gentlemen, have you been with the ombudsman's representative long enough to have assistance to get a second appraisal? Are you aware that state law will require that the city pay for that appraisal? Because I think that might help if you could work through the ombudsman to identify the appraiser, and then the way it works is that ombudsman will essentially send the appraiser's invoice to the city, and then the city would pay for that, and that would get us another appraisal to help with those discussions on value.
That sounds great to us. I mean, the other kind of sticking point.
Come on back up. After I promise you, but this is helpful, so I
really appreciate everybody's time. So the other sticking point was, giving the whole 7 acres right now, because even tonight, there has been discussion about, how far down the road will you need all 3 tanks versus 1? And, we could get a deal done really quickly if the parcel that you're looking for was smaller. But that would really, help us out, because the way.
So
like-
I'm not trying to cut you off.
I know.
I think what we're trying to say is we need all 7 acres. And you might not think that, but we feel like we do need it to fit the 3 tanks, which we're gonna build back to back to back.
Right.
So
But
my question to you is your sticking point that you don't want to be left with only 3 acres?
based on the valuation that we're receiving, because Utah is a non-disclosure state and it's very difficult to find comparables, the valuation came in what I would say is very, very low.
No, I'm not asking valuation. I'm asking acres.
Yes.
Are you, because one of the thoughts that went through my head through this process is, okay, if I own 10 acres, trying to buy 7, they should just buy all 10. We don't need 10, so we can't them 10.
Well, yes. I mean, the city offered to buy all 10 as well.
Well, I understand that, because we said we would buy all 10 if that was the situation, based on appraised value.
Yes.
And we have an appraiser, and that's the value, and we don't need to get into all the details. We can differently with, you can work that with staff. My question to you is, are you opposed to the 7 acres because you have 3 remaining, or are you opposed to the 7 acres? I just don't understand why you're opposed to the 7, but you're okay with the smaller. I guess that's where I'm trying to understand why.
Because the valuation is so low, and just kind of as you mentioned, over time, the value, there'll be more sales in the area, which I think will give us a more accurate representation of what that land is really worth. And so, I mean, you had kind of mentioned that before, is that you'd like to get it all now at this price, because the price is going to continue to go up.
I'm not saying because of this price.
You mentioned that, I thought.
If I did, I misspoke. What I'm saying is that we need the land now so we can construct what we need to construct, because we have to build the site, the roadway, the water lines, and the paths for the 3 tanks. The tanks might not be built because of the cost that it takes to build now. Does that make sense?
It does make sense what you're saying, but I didn't, it sounded like you could get away with 1 tank now, and that the city only needed 1 tank.
So I'm just gonna run a scenario, right? Because this is how I think.
Yeah.
Say we needed 1 tank today, we're saying in the next year or 2, we need the 2nd tank too.
Yeah, I've heard anything from 2 to 5 years, though, on when you need the tank.
2 to 5 years, but the way I'm looking at it is, it's more, when we look at the public funds and how we spend it, it would cost so much more to build that site at 1 acre, because you have common space between it all. So it's more cost efficient for the city to build the site now as we build the tanks in progression. So I think that's why we're saying, that's why I'm asking you, you want it smaller so you can get more money in a year or two, is what
We
you're
just want
saying.
we just want a fair price.
Yeah.
And if you saw the appraisal and the other
I saw the appraisals.
comparables.
I looked at them. I know what they were. And it sounds like if we get a second appraisal, and we'll just have to keep evaluating, because if you go through this process, correct me if I'm wrong, that they go off appraised value. It's not like you're not getting compensated for your land. The judge will decide.
Yes,
with
but the appraised value is a huge spectrum now. And like you said, there may potentially be some other comparables already that are way higher.
And if I know anything, appraisers, they can be all over the place. I don't know, right?
Yeah.
I'm just telling you, it's not like we just use one that's been used that around the area. I guess all I'm saying is that it's just, I understand you value your property as a much higher than what the appraiser, but that's what we have to work off, is what the appraiser gave us.
Yeah, I understand that. And like you said, we can see what the next appraiser says, because all we really want, well, I mean, we'd like to hold on to the property, but under the circumstances, it doesn't seem like that's an option. So, right, so what I would say we're focused on is a fair price for the property.
Just to give you
Robert,
some,
speaking to the mic there, we want to hear you.
just to give you some spectrum, okay? 15 years ago, I bought 20% of this property for $60,000 an acre. 15 years ago. Prices here are much greater than they were 15 years ago. And the city's appraisal came in at $40,000 an acre. And when I talked to Mr. Burris, he said to me that anyway, well, I can't not now. He said that he has had interest at $400,000 an acre. And that is just that's not even reasonable. But, that leads me to believe that maybe somewhere, even down to the lower side of the middle, is possible. And so we're hoping that in the very near future, we get some comps that show what the property's worth. And that's all we want, is what it's worth. And I can't believe, and the appraisal that we got appraised it according to a piece of land that was in a flood zone that sold 4 years ago, and no adjustment for what's happened to land, almost no adjustment, like 5% or something for what's happened to land in Washington in the last 4 years. And if any of you guys are in the land business, land in Washington has gone up more than 4% in the last 4 or 5 years. And so we had an objection or a disappointment with the appraisal, and then we've tried to talk to other appraisers who come back with the same thing. There's no land anywhere in public record that gives us an estimate. All I want to know is what it's worth. I don't believe it's worth $400,000 an acre. I don't believe it's worth $40,000 an acre. And it's in a unique place where none is sold that we can get information, not even the stuff that the city's bought. They won't disclose the information for what they've bought. So that's kind of what's forcing us, is all we want's a fair price. I'm not asking for $400,000 an acre.
I think we're all saying the same thing. I mean, it sounds like it's coming down to price for you.
Oh, yeah.
We can't wait 2 years for evaluation. So I think the process is to get a second appraisal, which you get and the city pays for, and that's the process that we go off of. I totally understand that you want it to be more. Everybody wants the maximum value, right? We want it to be less. I'm not arguing with you. We want it as low as we can get it. You want it as high. But there is a process, and we do have to do that process and move on. And at some point, if we can't, then this is the process that happens, right? And I think we're all understanding of that.
The legislature has dictated that the price be fair. The state law says that the city must pay a fair price, and state law says that the fair price is determined by appraisers licensed by the state. And so the challenge we have is, when the appraisers are looking for comps, if you take like a residential lot, there's a lot of comparables. This is a piece of land that is too high. Today, you couldn't run water service to this land from any Washington City tank. Even if you had the money to build it all there, there's not enough pressure to run water to this tank site. When the tanks are built, there won't be enough pressure to run water to this tank site. And so one of the reasons why a piece of land in the floodplain was used is because it also didn't have utility services. And so I don't disagree with your effort. I think you're entitled to seek a fair price. But the challenge with the science of appraising is there's not like a residential lot where you have hundreds and hundreds of those around the area. There's not a lot of parcels like this out there that have been bought and sold, because the parcels being bought and sold are the ones that have been accessible for development. And so that's the challenge. If you don't settle it in just negotiations, eventually both sides bring their appraiser to a court of law and a judge hears them give their opinions, and then a judge tries to find the fair price between those two appraisers. And so the legislature's making it be fair, but it's making it be fair through the science of appraising, which in some pieces of property types, the science is not quite as deep as it is on others. And so that's the challenge on this one.
So, but we're thinking that we should have access to some other comps shortly. The person that has the other comps had basically said to us that he felt like, the person said to me that he felt like if he made an agreement with the city would require that he doesn't share those comps with anybody else. And I didn't believe that was necessarily true, but.
The city doesn't go farm up comps. The city hires appraisers licensed by the state. The appraisers licensed by the state go do their science as to comps, and then they issue their professional opinion as to an appraisal.
The city wouldn't prevent him from sharing his comps with someone else.
Don't get involved with comps. We hire appraisers and we lean on what appraisers say the value is. Yeah.
So anyway, that's all I had to say.
Thank you, gentlemen. Any further discussion amongst the council?
Ask who the appraiser was that did this one.
Lester, do you remember the name, Lester? I can pull it up from documents.
We'll get it. We're good. We'll get it to you.
No worries.
Well, I think what we've accomplished tonight, we've held the first public hearings, and we've opened up the conversation, and we're happy to continue that conversation amongst the staff and the property owners. Next item of business is item 7, conditional use permit. 7A is a consideration to approve conditional use permit C-25-12. Update the facade for a retail business located at 720 West Telegraph Street. Community Development Director Eldon Gibb.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. This is an existing building. Joanne's used to be in there. You can see up in the upper left-hand corner is what it looks like today, and the bigger photo there is what they're proposing. The new exterior finishes are located on the front of the building and include a flat roof line, adding lighter stucco to the entranceway as shown on the exhibit. Staff has reviewed the proposed project and finds that it meets the requirements of the C2 use regulations as found in the zoning ordinance. Staff has no concerns with the proposal. Commission reviewed this request on November 5th, 2025 and unanimously recommended approval with the findings and conditions as outlined below. That concludes staff report. I'm happy to answer any questions at this time.
Questions for staff? If not, I'll entertain a further discussion and or a motion to approve.
Mayor, I can make a motion to approve. Before I do that, though, I'd just like to make one quick comment. I think this is just another great project in our city to help with our tax base, and good work to Rusty and everyone that made it. Make a motion to approve a conditional use permit C-25-12, update the facade for a retail business located at 720 West Telegraph Street.
Have a motion by Councilman Ivey.
Second.
Second by Councilman Coates. Roll call beginning with Councilmember Belliston. Henderson. Coates.
Aye.
Ivey. Casperson.
Aye.
Is approved 5-0. Next item, report of officers from assigned committee. We'll start on my left with Councilman Belliston. Councilman Henderson.
I don't have anything, Mayor. Thank you.
Councilman Coates.
I don't have anything with my committees, more of just thanks to Public Works you'll see the landfill road starting to be paved. So I appreciate their hard work getting that through. And as far as, it's one-way traffic, so it might be a little frustrating to people, but just because of the nature of they're having to go one certain way. Looks like they're almost done with one side and they'll be able to flop to the other side and get the other through.
On that,
You can't, mister.
now some kind of membrane and then,
One of the things that cost savings, right, is instead of ripping up the whole road, putting in new base and adding a super thick layer of asphalt, Andy in Public Works, they'd use this, it's like a grid membrane to help protect it. Like I said, it's not a full rebuild of the road, it's more of a patch, a large patch, and so it's a geofabric that goes down, it sticks, and then they pave over the top to help kind of, so that the old cracks in the old asphalt don't come up through. So it's more of a temporary solution that gets us hopefully over the next 10 years, and why we saved to redo the road in 10 years.
Something we want to test, see how it might work in other areas. So this is a really good test because nowhere else has the big trucks running on it. If it works well here, it might work well in other applications.
I'm super excited. Like, that whole area is going to be a real nice area here shortly, and we got those new homes from Coal West going in, and I just think it's not gonna feel like a landfill road. It's feel like a country way here in a minute. So that's all I have to report.
Well said. Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Ivy.
Mayor, I'm going to use time just to talk about something we mentioned in the council meeting a couple of weeks ago, where we had talked a little bit about identifying commercial properties within the city. Our current general plan was 2017, and I think there's been some exposures from, maybe areas of the city that have now developed, or other development has now presented commercial properties. And so just had a good conversation with Rusty Nelden. Just wanted to tell the rest of the council, I think that's a good effort for us to look at. In an effort also, I think there's some code to update, streamlining processes, which is all part of our regulatory reform. And then, Mayor, when they report back, I would ask that maybe we could have a work meeting in the Blue Sky Room just to discuss this going forward. I think it's key and important for our city that we identify these commercial parcels so that we can be out ahead of development and be ready when people come and want to build businesses in our city. But great conversation with those two, and look forward to having that conversation going forward with your approval.
Thank you, Councilman Ivy. Councilwoman Casperson.
Yeah, I just want to report that the historic canal trail is 90% complete. That's exciting. I went on a walk on it, and it's, really nice.
It's not open yet.
I had to observe, make sure everything was.
It's not open yet.
It's our committee assignment.
It's my committee
I'll
assignment.
get you a life or a safety vest to walk down it so you looked official.
Will not answer that question.
Hard hat.
Just saying.
Hard hat.
Got to keep it safe, and you're telling us you're the problem.
A commitment to my assignment.
Next time I'll give you a tour.
Okay, yeah. And then there's some workshops coming up for the Washington City Arts Council. One this Saturday, November 15th, there's an ornament workshop. And then December 6th, there's a watercolor holiday card workshop. And Jeremy would like to attend that, he just said. And then also, I just want to say thank you to everyone that was part of the Veterans Day celebration. That was just such an amazing day to be part of, and to live in this community, and just appreciate everyone's, the involvement to make it such a wonderful day.
Well said. Thank you, Councilwoman. The City Council was awarded a certificate for being HAC approved, which stands for the Housing Action Coalition. And it's their commitment to helping individuals attain housing within our community. It was our privilege to host the annual Housing Action Coalition Symposium last week at Heritage Hall. We had a great turnout from among the community. Many of our staff and our council were there and participated in looking for solutions for more attainable housing ownership options for, in particular, the rising generation within our community. I'll also just make note that we do have just a reminder that we'll have a special meeting on November 18th at 4 p.m. for the canvassing of the election. That should be quick, but that will be here. If we have closed session items, we might stay for just a little bit afterwards. That's going to be on a Tuesday, November 18th at 4 p.m. and the recorder will get that on your calendars. And then also with the Thanksgiving holiday, and the Christmas holiday, we only have one more workshop and regular meeting scheduled. That's going to be on Wednesday, December 10th. So I just wanted you to kind of be aware of that. And we will look for probably a day trip for our retreat sometime in January. And with the Water District trip, I'm waiting for more information on that.
So Mayor, are we not having council on the 26th? Is that what you said?
That's right. We only have one more regular scheduled meeting, and that's going to be on December 10th.
All right, thank you.
That's a question I'll have to ask, probably. Yeah, I'll get with the district over there and try to work through some of those logistics.
That's awesome. Whatever. Me and her are gonna have a good time. We're gonna talk all about water.
The next item of business is the city manager report. Jeremy Redd.
I cannot follow that, Mayor. I don't have anything to add.
We do not have need for a closed session tonight, so I'll call for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I have a motion by Councilman Coates, second by Councilman Bellison. All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned until the 18th.